Well, I mean, that's technically a correct answer, Akinator, but...
What was it?
Well, the answer it gave me was your OC, original character, and I'm like, okay, that's technically accurate, but I was looking for something a tiny bit more specific.
Who were you trying to get?
3 guesses.
Penny Fenmore, Penny Fenmore, Penny Fenmore?
You know, I wish that worked by Beetlejuice rules. But yes, I wanted to see if anyone had put her in yet.
Yeah, I was trying to do West of Heaven earlier, and it's just like, is your character male? Maybe. Is it female? Maybe. Is it a robot? Maybe. Is it
an inflatable pool toy? Maybe.
Yeah, shapeshifters would be a hard one, I think, for Akinator to figure out. Especially when they don't have a necessarily, like, a very well-defined default.
I have a plenty defined default. Kangaroo.
All right. Oh, it was also like, is your character associated with Pokemon? And it's just like,
Sort of.
yes. Oh, we are live.
Yes.
Oh, they can hear us?
They can hear us.
Oh no.
If they have ears.
I better not say anything about the bad thing.
Oh, don't say anything about the bad thing.
We don't acknowledge the bad thing. Is there supposed to be any music on this start screen?
I guess not.
Okay. I was really thrown off by that.
One last thing before we start, even if you play this before start this version again from the beginning, there's a bunch of music. Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
there's
so
the music. It's a little bit loud, in fact. That's better. Holy guacamole.
Auto forward. What is auto forward time? That seems concerning.
That's and for visual novels, that's it will automatically forward the text instead of you having to sit there and always click the button. So this is the amount of time until it moves on to the next one.
I've never liked doing visual novels that way. But that's just me.
Updated designs all over the place, several new scenes and rewrites of the first chapter. Well, I haven't seen anything of this game yet, except for a couple previews that I saw on the itch version. Anyway.
So is this game still not finished?
Nope.
Yeah.
Holy horns! What's with this place? It's ancient. Are you sure we're allowed to be here?
I had a nickel for every time I've exclaimed holy horns. Oh, this is the narrator. Who wants to be the narrator? You, me, Miller?
I can narrate.
Very well.
You're allowed to be anywhere as long as no one finds you. Sneaking through the forgotten cracks in a wall is not as easy as it once was, but I still managed to push my hat and my staff in somehow without wrecking the wall any further.
And tell us more about how you put your staff in those cracks.
Today's a mess, and the last thing I'd want is a whole city knowing that I'm back on my nonsense, namely helping fawns trespass into abandoned temples in pursuit of fixing the written lies that pass as history these days. I'm too old for this rubbish. Catch a glimpse of Lynn's expression as I push my scarf over my face again. My nose headache looks entirely unconvinced by my logic. Look, we're already here and you're gonna need all the help you can get, kid. I don't have time to explain every single little thing to you. If said kid's not any qualms left about following me here, he has the rare decency not to voice them. I mean, this whole ordeal is her fault in a very roundabout sort of way. Still her fault nonetheless. It's anyone's but mine, at least. I didn't come all the way back to the city to do charity for his descendants. It feels like this should all be voiced already, but maybe they're holding off on that for the last pass, because this is probably the most subject to change. Just wanted to find that dumbass's grave and clean up a little or leave some incense or something. Not this. I wasn't looking to hear legends about any so-called Knight of the Upperfield. I know the books in this library won't say a word about him, but I had to come back to this place anyway. The unlikely possibility of finding a trace of his existence among the broken tablets and burnt codices was far too compelling to ignore. Here I am, still following in his footsteps like the few unlucky scripts that time and thieves spared, frozen in their shells as they await the return of someone who will understand them. We have a lot in common, this library and I. Kid's eyes opened a fraction wider and only managed to narrowly avoid the incoming onslaught of questions. Here, ink, paper. You can write, right?
Of course! You're talking to the fastest!
Shut it, Askadaz.
That's so startling when it's like, Rick's voice. Of course! Very, very startling.
You're really adding some flavor to my name, huh? Where did all that salt come from? Or could that be the sweetness of an old flame leaving such a bitter aftertaste?
Ew, no, don't do that. It makes you sound like your mother. I mean, her mother. Or her great-great-great-grandmother? I can't believe this story's derailed this much. How long have I been gone?
I can't even start to guess if you won't tell me how old you are.
I'm entirely too old to care about something as dumb as numbers.
Well, gee, I'm starting to see why you wanted me here. Do you have a name, or are you too cool for letters too?
My name would only doom this project. You will be me, and I will be nothing more than the space between words.
What a droll way to say you want me getting lynched for this.
I can still keep this story to myself and tell you to get lost, kid.
But you won't, because after hearing my name, you realized I'm the chosen gazelle that legend of old prophesied would tell the true story of the night, right?
A lot to say in one line.
I could use a little encouragement here, not gonna lie.
Listen, Lynn, I don't believe in chosen ones, and I certainly don't know what the truth is. I doubt Ader himself ever knew. But I am going to tell you the story I know. I will tell it once. I will probably tell it wrong, since I can barely remember it anymore. But even so, anything I say will be 1,000 times more accurate than any of the oaths these witless bunch of flopdoodles have been singing through the ages. This may be Ader's punishment for lying his way into history, but still can't let the name of our friend be smeared like that. So what I mean to say is, I will skewer you if you interrupt me and make me forget something.
Fair.
She finally shuts up for a moment, though I know the silence won't last. Right, good. Guess I should put my own thoughts in order before we begin. His story started back when he left the village to... No, that would be too long. His story starts when he became a knight, and... No, that defeats the point. I guess his story starts with me. I could allow myself that much merit, right?
Who are you again?
I'm the one who tells the story. You're right. Okay, alright, here we go. Chapter 1. A better way to start a story than when things are about to go south.
Adder. Hey, lad. Do we have to go through this every single fuck? No! Oh boy. Here we go.
A beast! I saw a beast!
Way to call me an eyesore.
I'm telling you, I saw a beast.
Right. Look, I'm not drunk enough for this, so good.
This ain't no time to sleep. The beast may be gone, but the Macadar is still out there. The forest out there has come to find me.
Can you stop screaming like an idiot and use your brain for a second?
I knew they'd get to the city one day. We gotta tell everyone.
There are no damn trees around you, dimwit!
A long shush followed right after her. That's what we'll go with, since their words that their dear neighbors used are too colorful to be reproduced.
Oh, then what did
So-
you holler for, Mr. Bard?
What?
We're all in agreement that this big himbo guy on the left is like literally the best, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure everybody had the same was instantly smitten like I was.
Can't wait for Ray to get in
Sonny,
here.
up yet. If you don't quit your whining, we're gonna get a beating.
Says you, the buck who hath been delighting mine ears with his pitiful wailing all night long.
Say what?
You've
Listen,
been talking in your sleep again.
I was gonna be like, listen, I listened to that wailing all night long.
God. It's a sex joke.
Jonas, you're muted.
Is there
But
a
hello.
Jonas here?
Now he's unmuted.
Yeah.
It is a Jonas.
It is a Jonas.
Hi.
And we have two characters who've just been introduced. I don't remember their names, but we have a bard and a himbo.
Okay.
So,
Adder is the himbo.
thank you. I do not know the bard's name.
It was something weird. Had
Gyoif?
consonants in it.
I think it was Gyoif.
Wow.
Joyf?
I have
Nothing
no
weirder
idea,
than
like,
names with consonants.
if this affects anything, but anyway.
That was no dream, all right. Saw that thing with my own with my one eye. Got its face right in front of mine, and it was looking at me like it wanted to eat me.
I love this expression right here.
It's a very good expression. He has a very good face.
Wow.
See, this is the thing when I do a visual novel. I want to highlight the fact of character expression, because that's like one of the most important things to me with, actually showing the characters, not just like a flat static image like a ton of Japanese ones do. The really cheap Japanese ones do, anyway.
I went and checked out a couple of videos of this before you wanted to start, and yeah, some of these scenes are very much halfway between actual cutscene and visual novel representation.
Yeah.
Are you sure that wasn't Dana?
Say what?
I mean, she can be very aggressive. I wouldn't be too surprised if one night...
You think
Tell
Boss
me
is
more.
trying to eat me?
In a manner of speaking.
O fairest in the kingdom, what hath thou seen in this dull head?
Wait. Fair?
Fair.
That's a good face, too.
Oh, 3.
Don't.
The fair!
I swear to bite that kid, if you keep screaming, I'm going to kill...
Not a thing, get to me first!
And so Ader's heavy hooves stomped the ground with the force of a stampede as he sprinted away, making Geoff... How is that pronounced?
Jeff?
Jeff. It's Jeff.
Making Jeff regret every decision that led him to suffering this torment.
Glad we sorted that out.
I do enjoy that absolutely repressed anger face he was making just then.
Wide awake now and running as fast as his clumsy hooves would let him, Ader set off to the bazaar. A whole year had come and gone since he first set foot in the streets of Slander District, the most infamous slums of the capital.
I mean, would you really go to a place called the Slander District? It sounds like you're just asking for trouble.
If all they do is insult you, is it really that much of a problem?
Place so heinous that walking there alone at night was considered a suicide attempt. A place where you were in your right to keep a house if you could outlast its previous owner. Where he once felt like a poor fawn fearing for his life, now he felt like a poor deer fearing for his life, but at least he actually knew his way around after such a long time avoiding brigands. He had no time to spare worrying about trivial matters, such as being robbed or stabbed, for he knew fully well that he was to meet his destiny.
The patron's gonna skin me alive!
Oh my god, this is cute.
Destiny which most likely didn't really include being flayed by his dearest employer.
I don't know if
It's like little paper puppets on like a popsicle stick up on a stage.
I'm not sure if it's endearing or annoying.
We can't rule out the possibility of his direct superior whacking him in the head for oversleeping on such an important day.
What if she hates me now? Then the patron won't have no problem kicking me out. He'll kick me out and keep my skin as a payment. Nah, that's dumb. But he'll kill me anyway. Oh, crap.
So immersed was he in these fatalistic thoughts invading his head that his brain, which was by all accounts mostly made up of sawdust, didn't pay any mind to the path his hooves were following. And so, as it is to be expected from someone not heeding the wise advice, look where you're going, he soon met the first obstacle in his way to the plaza. A wall.
Oh dear.
In any other place, that soft chuckle would have meant that Ador wouldn't have the benefit of living with his failures alone. In the slums, could mean that he wouldn't have the benefit of living at all.
That was almost impressive. I truly thought that you were going to run straight through that wall for a moment.
The voice got closer by the second, followed by a strangely harmonic tinkling. A melody that danced in his ears and paralyzed his mind, rendering him frozen in the spot at the thought of an incoming murderous lady.
I am often frozen in the spot at those thoughts.
Ador shut his one remaining eye and held his breath deeply, knowing that it would be the last. Not dead yet.
Well,
Still
the
not
rest of
dead.
the game... Well, the rest of the game is just this. Not dead yet. Still not dead.
How come he was still alive? That's just rude. Between his blurry sight and the obfuscating darkness, Ador could barely tell apart the silhouette standing right in front of him. He should have run and screamed and begged for his life, but instead, he hesitated long enough for a few stray sun rays to wander among the rundown houses, finally casting light upon his foe.
Whoa.
For your information, everyone already thinks that Rose are thick-skulled. We don't need another martyr for the cause.
Oh, it's Hottie.
Ador's absolute lack of reaction made her mocking smile falter. To be fair, he had indeed left a sizable hole in the wall he just crashed against, but that was hardly the cause for his sudden drop in mental speed.
Are you okay?
Oh, that's a good
Ador
face,
nodded,
too.
though he hadn't really heard the question. Sensing this, the mysterious lass extended a soft hand toward them in an amiable gesture.
I have a question for everybody here. Yay or
Yeah.
nay on hoof fingers?
What?
Um,
I mean, I draw characters with hoof fingers, so I'm going to go for yay. I mean, it doesn't totally make sense, but I mean, come on.
I mean, if in this sense it's cartoony enough, I'll let them get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
So you want to
Oh,
take
come
her
on, you need-
hand?
you know you want to hold her hand.
Hold her hoofy hand. Hold it.
What
Yes.
are those?
I know they're short. Please don't stare.
What kind of nonsense is that? I'd never seen hands like those before.
My hands? You like my hands?
Were you born with them? How much weight can you lift? Can you use tools at all? Or wear a shirt? What's wrong with your neck? Is that a hood or a scarf? I love the pattern, by the way.
Yes, in fact, he was born with his hands.
What is wrong with his neck? Is there something wrong with his neck?
He had hand enlargement surgery.
It's all silicone.
So,
I'm sorry, ma'am. What was the question?
you, what are you supposed to be?
Oh, well, I'm just your run-of-the-mill prairie buck, ma'am. Just, you know, my mom gave me shovels for hands and a gourd for a neck. They're better for work in the fields.
Oh, come on. I want the actual story.
You want the boring bits? Okay. See, I used to be all big and strong. But then I come to the city, and what do you know? Food ain't so easy to come by. I was so hungry that I'd even eat the rocks in the street. And I'd go to bed hungry one night, and another, And I keep on starving till I end up 2 meals short of turning into a walking pile of bones. Except for my hands. They just won't get. And they're for real heavy, let me tell you. So, that's the gist of it. You want to hear about my neck, too? Or my name, at least?
Or any other body parts?
Girl's eyes narrowed as she stared at Ader. He fixed his gaze on his hands, considering the strange path the conversation had taken.
So what you are saying is that you used to be plump?
Plump? Like a fruit? Well, I used to eat a bunch of fruit before I came down here last year, yeah.
Last year? Wait, how many eyes did you have then?
How many?
17, like a normal
5, I
person.
think, but I lost the other 4.
Oh, dang. He practically made the same joke I
knew
did.
it. You've changed a lot, but it's you. You're that loudmouthed one-eyed chub.
Say what?
It's me. Don't tell me you've forgotten me.
Jeff had warned Ader multiple times about the dangers of the "it's me" scans, but he was pretty tempted to fall into this one.
Ma'am! I don't know what you're selling, but I ain't gonna buy it.
Come on. Don't you remember that night on the bridge under Hirab's statue? With the guards laughing at you? You didn't hit your head that hard, did you?
I bet those guards had one haystack of a night laughing at some poor buck. I'm pretty darn sure that wasn't me. I'd remember you. Trust me.
It was a pretty long time ago, but... Wait, I know.
She bit her lip just long enough to make Ader lose his need to understand the situation anymore.
Come closer.
Yeah, that works on me, too.
Who, me? Almost
Oh, he's doing
the
the crooked
There's no
smile.
one else hiding in the mist of dawn. Do you know how ambitious it is to give a visual novel character a lopsided characteristic?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot.
Although I'm
That
pretty
is
sure, looking at
that is
this, that he actually does have a mirrored sprite, but the eye patch is its own thing, so that they could paste it on this side whenever he was facing away.
Oh, that's clever.
Nice.
Also, I cannot stop commenting. That is a full-on Brayburned expression, is what that is right there.
I said come closer.
All right then, here I come.
That's it? Come
You
on.
move 2 pixels.
Don't make me walk over there. That's close enough.
She slipped right under Ader's arm, uninvited, but not unwelcome.
Now, if you could get on your knees, You know what? Maybe you should see a doctor after all.
Just sit! There you are!
Ugh, give me a break.
Less than a blink, her smile was back on her face as she turned to face a voice in the distance. There was some other doe similarly flashy clothing, hurriedly stomping her way towards Jasif, apparently.
You called?
We've been looking everywhere for you!
Oh, that's just some
And
wench.
so you found me. Congratulations. Now, if you don't mind...
Miss Rochelle's had us searching for hours. She wants you back immediately.
Well, I'm kind of busy, so... Would you be so kind to go tell her to find someone else to bother while I catch up with my friend here?
The fair's about to start. Head back already or you'll get us all in trouble.
The red-haired girl stood completely still. She held her breath for an instant.
I'm sorry. Was that an order?
What? Miss Rochelle said...
Say, do you know what happened to the last wench who had the gall to order me around?
Jasif's smile was still plastered on her face, but her eyes had narrowed down to a squint, sharpening her long eyelashes even further.
I don't...
Care to find out?
The doe looking for her stammered, color drained from her mane. From her mane?
That is a word you do not see very often anymore.
What is that?
That is like a 19th century word right there. It just means face. Or countenance.
Okay.
Or, yeah. Like, holy hell, they were breaking out the thesaurus on this one.
After a few tense seconds, a pleased smile spread across Jasif's face.
Come now, honey. Don't make that face. I'm just joking here. I've got too much going on as it is to begin picking fights with my sisters. Don't you think?
Right.
Okay, something that I don't like about visual novels is the usual thing about having the text box take up the bottom quarter of the screen, but that covers up a lot of the character artwork.
A lot of visual novels will have a keyboard shortcut that will they'll toggle the text box on and off so you can see the rest of the artwork.
It'd be cool if you could move it like a like a window, like just.
Yeah, that'd also be cool.
Well, you could also just have it so the art specifically stops and it's separate from the text box instead of overlaid.
Yeah, see, that's what my idea is, to either just have like a dedicated HUD like at the bottom that the artwork does not pass through. But a lot of people don't like doing that. They want to use all the screen real estate despite the fact it's going to cover up the artwork anyway. So the other idea that I have is just to get rid of the text box altogether and just do dialogue balloons like in comics. I feel like that might actually work better, but it'd be harder to program.
It'd be interesting to see.
It would be.
Then that's settled. Let's go.
Jasif whipped her braid as she turned around sharply, making the choir of bells that hung from her hips announce her leave.
They're like, ah!
It had barely just a second register what had happened. He could swear something had moved in a corner, but he couldn't care less. Finest lass he'd laid eyes upon in his whole life was about to disappear, and she seemed to have forgotten all about him. Facing the prospect of never seeing her again, he tried at the very least to catch up to introduce himself formally.
Wait,
Yes?
And as Ada was about to speak, he had the same feeling of missing something. So, as his gaze drifted following her back once more, he noticed something else moving behind her derriere. Something long like a whip, ending on a red tuft of fur. Something that most definitely didn't look like a cervine tail. Confused, his eyes quickly traveled from the zone where his back lost its name to the top of her, to the top of her head.
Her back lost its name?
I don't know what he means by that.
I think they're just saying having a fancy way of trying to avoid saying he was looking at her ass.
Is he just really like
where her back stops being her back and starts being her butt? Yeah.
Okay.
Praying.
That's just not.
Wishing. Desperately hoping that he wouldn't find what he found sprouting from the top of her red head. Horns. Coiled black barn horns. Longer than his own rack.
And let's not even get started on her rack.
Ader had to hold back a yelp. He'd been so distracted by the rest of her features that... No way! I wasn't looking at her! Ader yelled internally. Beads of sweat began falling from his temples as his face became even more flustered. There's no way But as if meaning to aggravate his inner turmoil, Jasif smiled one last time with a mischievous glint in her eyes.
Don't worry. I'll see you around. Handsome.
In your nightmares.
Ader was so many things. He was goofy, he was loud, he had a smile that could light up all town, he was gigantic, and yet, there was a thing he'd never call himself. It was, no doubt, handsome. After all, a buck's worth may as well be as large as his horns are, and his were, well, tiny. Almost childlike.
I wonder if he's tried any horn enlargement pills.
So that offhanded compliment, that mere insinuation that someone found him actually good looking, made his heart flutter. And by flutter, I mean it may as well burst out of his chest right then. So for just 1 second, he forgot that lady in front of him was Horn. For a moment, he forgot all the things he'd heard about gazelles. His face turned red, his jaw came loose, but he had been able to articulate. Had he been able to articulate, he'd have found he'd completely forgotten the ability to talk.
His face turned red, his jaw came loose, his horns fell off, his entire body became unsewn. It was just a mess all over the sidewalk.
He'd completely forgotten the ability to talk. I mean, he'd completely forgotten how to talk. This dialogue does still need a bit of editing. He still knew how to do one thing, though.
And what is that?
Screaming
I
in the
was not
suffering.
disappointed.
Wordless heartbreak.
This time, his shame was stronger than the wall.
Did he
Wait,
just
what? Stop
straight
there.
through the wall?
What was that last bit?
Went through the wall.
The bit about the wall or the gate? Oh, I see. Ruminants haven't always been so successful at living together as they are now. Wars, gods, horn shape, all the excuses to be different used to make a lot more sense to mortals back then.
No, I know that, but there's no way the knight would have thought something so awful.
Ada was a young, insecure stag at a time when every row felt the need to deny having a single drop of Baharan blood in their veins. Why would he think any different?
Why wouldn't he? That's the point, isn't it? That he was different from the rest. How could he believe any of that crap?
How should I know? Never had anything against gazelles.
Sounds like you weren't a whole lot bothered by those who did, though.
You're right, I wasn't. I just thought that there had always had to be someone to punch down on. I spent all my energy making sure that it would never be me. That was the world as I saw it, and I never hoped it could be any different. Never wanted it to change. Ada, though, I think, never meant to do that to anyone. I think he just hadn't realized that there was more to this world than the fears he had been raised with. He had to butt heads with more than one type of wall in his life. I could be wrong, of course. His understanding could have been another pretense, and he may very well lied about wanting to fight with the rest of us until his very last breath. No, I'm sure he did grow to be a wise, kind man, Lynn. Much wiser and kinder than I ever was, at least. Neither of us would be here making excuses for that dumbass otherwise.
Well, I don't care about you, but he'd better rise up soon. I have high-quality standards for my ancestors.
I'm glad you do, kid. Now, where were we? Sun was already up in the sky by the time Ada managed to remember they was supposed to go to the bazaar.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to arrive so late. Please don't kill me.
But lo and behold, there was no one around.
What do you know? First again. I'm gonna have to ask for a raise at this rate. Hold up. Now ain't the time for that. Andy could get here at any... Boss!
And then he died.
Gotcha. You're gonna end up giving someone a heart attack if you don't quit sneaking up on people like that, you know. Right. Don't you think for a second I forgot I was supposed to prepare the stall. No, ma'am. But, you know, days are getting longer, and it's harder to sleep at night, and the streets are real crowded, and...
Ada, why aren't you setting up the stall right now?
Yeah, like, seriously.
Ada's silent glare told him that she didn't believe a single word, but she didn't care enough to pry either.
Hey now! Quit giving me that look, Missy. You got here late, too.
She pointed at her hair. Drops of silver green water were dancing on her tips, painting the ground beneath them.
And how is it my fault that you were busy dyeing your hair?
Oh, hey, why does he keep making all the same jokes I am? How dare you, sir?
Leaving him with that perfectly valid question unanswered, she walked back to pick up a big bag she left a few steps away.
And then she picked it up and hit him with it.
And then headed toward the stall, closely followed by Ader. About time that they began working. A sudden thought popped up in Ader's mind as he helped her set up their carpet.
So, how come the patron ain't here? It's just gonna be the two of us today?
Ada simply shrugged.
You won't tell your pa I got here late, right, boss?
I mean, considering how much dialogue she's actually spoken, I don't think she's going to tell anyone anything.
Is she like mourned? She just says, okay.
She punched his arm with such strength that she almost made him fall sideways.
Ow! What did I... Oh, tail. Sorry, boss.
Oh, she is mute. Okay.
This little reminder that was a sensitive issue effectively killed the conversation.
Huh.
People from all over Ireland began congregating in the bazaar, turning the walled plaza into a sea of spice, trinkets, and deer.
Ah, the three things I always look for at any outdoor bazaar.
Currents of that sea were still difficult to understand for Ader, who often found himself pushed to the ground in the busiest hours.
Wow, this is really getting looter than I expected.
It was the beginning of the Dawnsoon season, so the festive Icane had to make sure to bid a proper farewell to the rain clouds so that they'd be back again by the end of it. A pleasant change from Ader's usual day, working in Anus Forge under the continuous risk of suffering a heat stroke or third-degree burns. Or that's what he thought at first.
Welcome, welcome. We got the best prices in town. Come on and see what goods we offer.
I'm already looking at your goods,
to his
dude.
incessant yelling. Other than Aina snickering at him for trying so hard, that is.
Sure must be fun watching me break my back so your dad won't yell at us.
Alongside, Aina sat up and cast a tired glance over the carpet. She reached out and grabbed a small, shiny dagger. After checking its sharpness against her glove, she began stabbing the air as possible customers approached the stall, attempting to showcase its intended use.
Yes, that will definitely draw people towards you. Seeing someone stabbing the air.
Aina quickly put his hands over her shoulders, discreetly bringing her arms down.
You know what? I take that back. There ain't no deer in the world that works harder than Aina of the Test. There just ain't. A hard worker like you deserves a good rest every once in a while, so just let me take care of this, boss.
He did his best to attempt at a natural smile. Aina, who couldn't care less about any of this, simply shrugged and sat back, still wielding the knife. She let her hand fall on one of the stones that paved the bazaar and effortlessly tore it from the ground, deciding that it served better as a sharpening tool.
You do you.
It was best to leave the issue alone. Aina had figured out quite some time ago that Aina was a creature of habit, and her habits included steadfastly refusing to put any effort into anything she didn't care about. But it never really bothered him at all. There was something fascinating about watching her get completely absorbed by whatever task she had chosen to focus on, really. Aina never quite had that level of dedication to his craft, even if he had one. If he even had one. She could hammer tirelessly at a single hunk of metal for hours at a time if the piece required so, all while judging Ader's every move with the same intensity. She was just as capable of sitting in a corner and glaring away the hours while she sank deep into her own imagination. That's why he immediately knew something was off, and she turned her face away from the dull knife of her own accord.
Huh? What's wrong, boss? Wait, is that... Oh, no. Don't tell me he's coming this way!
Aina wasn't going to tell him either way, but coming this way, he was. He being Ader's worst one-sided nightmare. The Almata Ken.
That's a word.
A lot of proper nouns in this sense.
It's a lot
of heirlooms soak. Taled, the treasurer, followed by his pale retinue. Ader didn't even have time to yelp before the merchant among merchants politely announced his present with an ancient greeting.
Sup, bitches?
I'm aware of how hectic the stall must be today, so I won't keep you long. I simply realized what a rare occasion it is to see you out in a crowd, so I thought I would take a moment to come and pay my respects to you. I hope you'll find some solace seeing a familiar face among the hustle and bustle.
His eyes turned sharply away from Taled, closely accompanied by the tip of her knife. The stag's head followed the motion, only to find the eerily immobile set of deer waiting by his side.
I understand the apprehension you feel towards my company, but I'm afraid these are the only escorts I can ever trust with my back anymore. It's a dangerous world out there for people like me. Speaking of which, where's your father? Has he considered my latest proposal? Or will I have to send any more of my people his way?
Wow, he moves quick, proposing to her dad and everything.
Ader didn't miss the way Aina's fingers clenched around the dagger she was sharpening. Let's see. Terrified and desperate, or attempt to be suave?
Distract him sounds like it would be the much funnier option.
Holy horns! Check out that Buck's grapevine, boss! It's gotta be the biggest tree I've seen in my life, from root to branchlers. Darn!
Branchlers?
That shrub's worth a fortune, I'm telling you. And trust me, I'm Chanchurian born and raised. I know.
Thank you for pronouncing that for us. Thank you so much for pronouncing that for us.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, that Buck's grave pine.
Yeah, check. That's what I'm gonna say anytime I see someone attractive from now on. Check out that Buck's grapevine.
Aina didn't bat an eye at the interruption, while Taylor didn't seem to hear him. The bizarre staring contest remained strictly a two-person business. Aina never was one to give up so easily, however.
Yep, sure'd be nice if we could have a plant like that dragging our stuff around. Oh, it's a real shame the patron don't plan to bother showing up today. We could have tried to convince him together. Whoever buys that tree is going to show the world he's a deer with class. Ain't that right, ain't it?
Ader didn't do anything more remarkable than put a hand on Ana's shoulder to make Taylor shoot a look in his direction at last. It was but a brief glance, a glance best reserved for a slug crawling up your leg, a glance so scalding that it could make weeds wilt and crumble to dust within seconds. Kind of glance that would normally precede the untimely death of an elongated yellow stag. As Ader's luck would have it, however, recognition set in the merchant's gaze just at the right moment. An unsettling half-smile formed in its face instead.
Ah, yes. I remember you now. Geoff's little paramour.
Geoff? Okay.
The oversized one-eyed fawn that wanted to be a knight. One Durandun for a full set of armor was what you requested, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope. Sir, I'd never dare say you're mistaken, but I doubly not dare say so when it comes to numbers. Imagine it. Poor farm boy could barely count trying to tell thee, Taylor, how money works. Darn, just thinking about it cracks me up. No, sir, I can't. I just can't believe for one moment the most famous loner in all of Heirloom would be so kind to remember a dumb buck's dumb dreams, much less his ugly friggin' mug.
Of course. I never forget a face, no matter how weathered or insignificant. That'd be remiss of me.
No matter how hideous and awful and stupid and one-eyed and yellow and just disgusting and oh, it makes me want to punch it so much. Yes, I always remember them.
Taylor nodded to himself thoughtfully, giving Taylor a chance to discreetly crawl behind Ana. Despite the yellow stag's desperate inner pleas, Taylor's eyes soon shifted towards him again.
Forgive my curiosity. I just can't help but wonder. How can a country boy with ambitions as great as yours go on living, day after day, knowing he can't aspire to more than his deplorable life? Geoff can barely stay sober enough to feed himself, never mind someone twice his size. It must be exhausting, staying alive.
You trying to make a hand at me?
Not at all. We manage. Sorta.
It's a hard knock life.
Taylor's soft features drew closer to Ader, but he barely even noticed. His only eye remained glued to Taylor's bodyguards.
It's not
sexy,
too late to consider
sexy
the offer I made
bodyguards.
you back then. Let me put those deformed hands of yours to better use. I could give you the armor and the money to pay for it now, if you come work for me in the sewers. It won't be much worse than whatever the blind witch has you doing.
That's mighty kind of you, Mr. Taylor, but it's poor manners to consider job offers in front of your own boss.
You make a fair point. Perhaps once I've torn that red scab off our guild's back then. Ana?
Taylor finished his farewell with a bow, and thus left the moneylender at last, followed by the delayed rhythm of a Calceris march. Is that
this game is really, really breaking out the thesaurus, calcareous, containing calcium carbonate, chalky.
It's limestone is what it is.
Okay. They're saying they're pale. They're pale. You're welcome.
I have a feeling that they're like some sort of golem.
Yeah, they did just say there was a plant carrying stuff, so there's definitely some magic going on here.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I felt magic as soon as I saw our main character.
His body had somehow consorted into being nearly indistinguishable from Ana's at this point. He needed a few more seconds to thaw out of that position.
Divine beeswax, I'm crawling out of my skin here.
Again, if I had a nickel for every time I've said that.
What the hell you laughing at now, huh? That weirdo ain't no joke, you hear me? Last time I talked to him, it only took me shoving my hoof in my mouth half a second to swish, get a blade on my neck. And all I could see out of this eye was the creepy face of one of those gold.
Yep.
Oh, it is.
Anna's ears perked up, though her gaze remained firmly locked on the blade.
No, yeah, of course you'd find it funny, Miss Tess. Paying my respect sure is a fancy way of saying he got the hots for you.
Ader barely avoided getting his liver punctured by extremely flustered Ana.
I appreciate the cartoon fighting sound effects.
The hours passed by slowly and painfully, for they were completely ignored by any passerby. Well, actually, avoided rather than ignored. It was no surprise.
Worn deodorant.
The merchant, Ader's patron, and his mute daughter were two of the most despised people in the city. In spite of the incredible variety of antiquities and smithery that the merchant had for sale, no one ever bought a single thing. And there were plenty of reasons for that. Even Ader had some serious doubts about working for an old Baran man, whose fur was redder than blood, and an albino smith that insisted on dyeing her hair green. The fact that they had worked independently from Heirloom's Trader Guild probably had something to do with it too. In any case, it was well afternoon, and they hadn't done anything but sit around the whole day. Ader pressed his lips together and began drumming his fingers against the floor. He looked askance at Aina, hoping his subtle call for attention had stirred her curiosity, but there was no answer. He'd have to be the one to actually break the silence as usual.
So, hey, Aina. I bet you're still wondering just what in the world could make a hard-working buck like this one get here so late this morning.
Aina stopped hitting the rock with the blade. She barely moved her eyes towards Ader.
Well, buckle up, because there's a whole story there. This gotta stay between you and I. But, this morning,
Well, he saw a beast, he ran through a wall, or he saw a gazelle. They are all things that happened. At least he thinks he saw a beast. What does everyone vote? I vote for gazelle.
See, I feel like him running through a wall is a regular occurrence, so it wouldn't be worth bringing up. You want to talk about the gazelle? What about the beast?
I mean,
we still haven't come back around to the beast yet.
Yeah, true, but the gazelle was hot, so
yes, I want to see if she got upset with him for saying that the loner guy had the hots for her, because maybe she has feelings for Ader.
I saw a gazelle.
Let's push that
Not
point.
any gazelle. No, ma'am. She was the fanciest gazelle girl I've ever seen. And there she was in the slums, strutting her hip-shaking, earthquaking, heart-melting butt.
So now he'll talk about her butt.
Aina's inquisitive gaze suddenly made Ader very cautious of his own words and thoughts.
Go on, Ader.
Ader was most certainly not used to having her pay attention to him when he spoke.
Butt ugly face! So I just ran away because she was so awful. Ugh, yuck. Yeah.
Ader could feel how Aina's lilac eyes stared at his very soul, piercing a hole with a question that she meant to ask.
You know, I mean, her face makes me think less like she's jealous and more like she's like, go on.
I want to know.
Wow, it was such an intense look that he felt flustered. With her usual silent demeanor, Aina brought her two gloved hands in front of her face.
So you're not gonna tell me more, huh?
She balled them both into a fist, raising just her index fingers. Then she lifted them until they rested on her forehead like tiny horns.
Horns?
With a quick motion, she took her horns to her mouth, biting them.
I ain't no gosh darn friggin' horn eater, okay? I like toes!
No homo.
Word for it.
Tell me,
Horn eater.
Wait, you can click on these things and get it like a dictionary?
Yes.
Has this been the case for all of them?
Yeah. Slang usually refer to a male deer he shows interest in, another male deer, especially one with big horns, a male or female gazelle, since they're both horned. The word in its origin is lewd reference to the posture necessary for two male stags to partake in such an act, and its meaning expanded to cover gazelles as well as deerkin caravaneers. Bended the rumor that all gazelles are male in the first years of contact due to their horns. While not illegal in any way, they face heavy social stigma. Roebucks have fame for being interested in gazelles, so they are particularly vocal on their dislike for horn eaters. Language.
Wow,
Also,
this
the
is-
word he
right
used
here.
earlier to refer to Gazelle, Baran, is apparently a city in Yemen.
Oh.
Ah, I knew it. I knew there was something Yemeni about this.
It's very Middle Eastern. I actually kind of like it.
It's weird because he sounds like a hick.
Well, yeah, he's the Hayseed Knight. That's the name of the game.
Well, I know, but it's
The
odd
best
to
way
me.
to define Ada's smile at that precise moment would be terrifyingly mean. While her bad temper was known and feared among the other merchants, it was unusual for her to be so acidic, especially towards Ada. Our dear boy couldn't help but notice at this change, and he wasn't going to keep it to himself, of course.
You're acting real ugly, boss.
The smile on her face vanished, replaced instead by a grimace. In response to this affirmation, Aina merely shifted her gaze back to the blade and resumed her task, pretending she hadn't heard him. But if Adar was known for one thing, it was his incessant need to stick his nose in everyone's business.
Ooh. So we have a choice between Inquisitive Ader and Inquisitive Ader.
Just one is more presumptuous.
Yes. Let's be not presumptuous. Or let's be presumptuous, because it's Ader.
I got no social graces.
A wrinkle formed over her nose as she focused on keeping calm. Ader quickly understood what was irking her.
Now, I ain't dumb enough just yet to go asking you to explain. Just promise me that you're gonna let me know if it's too much for you, okay? One nod, ma'am.
She looked up, pointing at different parts of the crowd with her snout. Then she shrugged, trying to hide under the shade of their stall.
Well, of course it's crowded. It's a friggin' fair. Just what in the name of Hatsa was the patron thinking, leaving y'all alone in the stall?
Ada only seemed to become even more conflicted as he said this.
Sorry, I didn't mean... Look, boss, your pa must have thought the same thing I think. That you're the strongest and the coolest, and you can do this if you wanna. And you ain't alone anyway. No, ma'am. Adderson, son of Gerfaz of the upper fields right here for you. All day, every day. Now, come on. How many hugs do the patroness need to feel better?
All of them.
I mean,
Ader opened his arms wide, looking for a hug. I bet he's a
I'll
great
hug you,
hugger.
Ader. I will 100% hug you, Ader.
Hugulator. Stimulator.
Huginator.
Instead, he found the tip of the dagger inches away from his big snout.
Well,
Okay.
Nah, I
like
figured
hugging
she wasn't a
butter.
hugger.
I know that now. Got it? Yep. I swear on my one good eye that I ain't gonna forget it for the rest of my life. So, please, ma'am, let me live a little longer.
Anna looked confused for a moment. She dropped the knife in a hurry as soon as she realized she was still wielding it. GC,
His
how
full
long
name
have you been here?
is
I just got here.
Okay.
Adersind ibn Hafsid.
Wow.
Okay.
Boy, just watch him. Look at him bounce.
Clearly flustered, she tried to sign some kind of apology, which in turn led to Ader to apologize as well, which conversely made Aina attempt some sort of embrace as a compensation. So in the end, they just shook each other's arm awkwardly and called it a day.
Okay, so she
What?
can't
Hi there!
Already.
Hi there, Moss Man!
Ada and Aina immediately jumped away from each other, doing their worst best attempt to look looking half professional. A thunderous laugh resonated over the ruckus of the bazaar.
Kilogram?
It's respectable Illigrab Buntalos to you, boy.
Sounds like a goofer.
But please, don't hold back on my account. I'll just look the other way.
Sounds like a what?
What?
And so appeared the man that was so red that would seem that he'd stolen all the color his daughter was lacking.
Patron!
Ah, so he gets the respectful treatment and I don't. I see how it is.
What's that salacious doll cop doing to my daughter now?
They're just strengthening their ties of friendship. Ah, or is this a budding love?
The merchant shook his cane, hitting Ilgrab's twiggy leg with a loud thunk. The tree man just wiggled his mustache in response.
Whoa! Hold up. We weren't doing anything, patron.
That's the problem, you cumberground! You lighter sack! You!
A coughing fit saved Ader from more old-timey insults which he could barely comprehend.
You snuggledung! You humperdinker wunklepunk!
Once Ader recovered, the merchant pulled his bearded face next to Ader's, resting the tip of his cane on Ader's chest. He opened his toothless mouth slowly, his breath reeking more like bleach than liquor.
You haven't sold a single thing, have you?
Now, that's hardly their fault, Red.
I'm sure this Yaltson was just frolicking with my daughter as usual!
She's old enough to frolic as she pleases.
She hasn't even come of age yet!
Of course she hasn't. There's no way for her to pass that right.
Of course there is! She just needs to open her mouth and stop being an idiot!
The only idiot here is the one talking, patron. Ana's just mute.
You tell him!
Is that rub off on you? And maybe you want to keep your mouth shut when adults are talking!
Yeah? Well, you know what which you would rub off on?
I got them adult horns and...
Shut up! Don't you have anything to say about this, insolent child?
She's gone.
Ana?
She walked away while you two were arguing.
Then why didn't you say so sooner, you overgrown sapling?
She looked like she needed it.
Why does Ilgrab's voice sound familiar?
This is all your fault! And yours!
Stabbed Ader's nose with the tip of his finger.
You know, the merchant's voice sounds familiar to me because it sounds almost like Dan Avidan's old man voice that he breaks out sometimes on Game Grumps. I know it's not him, but it sounds a bit like that voice.
Well, I'll give you one thing.
I'm gonna give you 5 across the ass!
I'll give you one thing. Illigrab and the merchant are voiced by the same actor.
Okay.
They're both voiced by Travis Lindsay.
That name's familiar.
He reminds me of Michael McConnelly. I don't know if you guys know him, but he voices old characters in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Don't blame the poor boy. She's always had an attitude, and you know it.
I don't care! You
I'm gonna post the IMD link in the Twitch chat.
Or I swear to Arab that I'll hit you so hard that you'll be cropping out your teeth for a week!
Good.
Oh, here we go.
Only 2 credits. Okay. Both Ader and Illigrab winced at that.
Now hold up, what?
Come on, Adder. Those two clearly want some alone time. And he'll have plenty of that when I leave him tied to the pyre next time I find a mob outside the shop.
Illigrab took Ader by the cape and lifted him off the ground as they walked away. It didn't take Illigrab long to notice Ader's unusual reticence to speak.
Please, don't let Red's words affect you. He's, worse today. There's a storm coming from the west, and it's making us old people nervous.
No, the patron can preach and holler all he want. That don't bother me much. I mean, I don't cry anymore, at least. What he said to Ana, though? Now that's going 2 paces past the league too far. So what if she can't swear the oath thing? The 3 won't get mad at her for being mute. And anyway, Ana don't gotta pass no right. It ain't like she's getting married any day soon, right?
There. Got it all out of your system, boy?
You know what? All this stuff I'm saying means radish stew if I don't say it to her face. I gotta find her, make sure she's all right.
Illigrab didn't reply to that last affirmation. He placed Ader carefully on the ground and patted his cape to straighten it.
Well, in that case, I have to go back to keeping watch on the fair. So, this is where we say goodbye for today. Hey, I'll send someone to fetch you if I see her, okay?
Ada nodded resolutely. They waved goodbye to each other.
I love the Godzilla walk that he does.
And then the buck just stood there wondering where to start looking for when the bazaar was half a league from gate to gate. Assuming she was still in the bazaar at all.
Finally! I thought that fluffy bastard was never leaving.
Geoff walked into the scene with a huge smile as the giant disappeared in the distance.
Afternoon, Mr. Bard.
Oh, lad, what a face.
Well,
yeah, well, I was born with it.
Not a word. Thy mean speaketh clearer than thy tongue doeth.
Again
You're
with the
hungry.
mean.
Nah, I ain't in the mood to.
Well, I am. And I can't play a song when my stomach's growling a gazelle. Let's get some fried leaves.
Sorry, Bard. I ain't got time for any of that. I gotta go look for Aina. She just ran away angry as all get out, and I know darn well if I don't go check up on her, no one's gonna.
And I thought my songs were monothematic.
I don't know what that means, but
Geoff picked the strings of his ode one by one, deep in thought, while Ada just paced around.
I know just the place to look.
Geoff expertly snuck through the crowds, moving with such ease that he seemed to be little more than a shadow. Ada did his best to keep up with him, though that was hardly an easy task when he was one head taller than most other deer. The place Geoff was looking for wasn't in the plaza itself, surrounded by stalls and all their merchandise, but rather on one of the many alleys that led to the bazaar. The crowd there was bustling with life as well, but not quite in the same manner. They were all rowdy deer pushing and cheering. A Carnmay alley. Okay.
Sounds like a word you need to click on.
Yep, sure does. Oh, this entry is.
Carnmay is the name of the legendary deer practice of butting heads, a need that seems to run in their blood. Carnmay tournaments are held for anything, from deciding a come-of-age maiden's groom, to settling minor disputes outside of courts, or even just for mere fun. Official Carnmay has to be approved by the court, and while offering compliments to bigger events, some people attend said celebrations exclusively to watch duels. Some of the strongest deer became well-known kingdom-wide, earning fortune, fame, does, and sometimes even lordship thanks to their achievements in these battles. Fans of Carnmay would get so impatient waiting between events that they'd often gather in narrow streets to watch other deer fight in unsanctioned duels, leading to the birth of Carnmay alleys, some of the shadiest corners of the city.
Cool, knife fight.
The rules of official Carnmay are fairly simple, though they need not necessarily apply in Carnmay alleys or more colloquial events. Both deer must stay within the boundaries of the ring at all times. If either deer touches the ground with 3 limbs, they automatically lose. One fighter manages to lock their horns around the others. They may not be separated while both fighters have their hooves on the ground. Fighters may not remove the other's clothes or armor, or otherwise interfere with their belongings in a way that could disturb their opponent.
So they can't remove their clothes? And just like that, my interest is gone.
Carnmay alleys were very different from the official sort. While killing was still very much frowned upon, there was no chivalry, no one set of rules. There was no way of knowing if the horns you were being gored with were hygienic. There were punches, kicks, all sorts of cheats. It was chaos. And for that, and several other reasons, Aina was a huge fan of unofficial Carnmay. Sadly, as much as Ada jumped and pushed and yelled, she wasn't anywhere to be found.
Alas, your fair maiden is in another alley.
Ada cast a long glance over the improvised battlegrounds, attempting to find her one last time.
That's too bad. Aina kicked some serious ass here.
Good thing she's not allowed to fight.
Yeah, ain't no way they're gonna let a
golem at her.
Geoff cast a very serious look in his direction. This wasn't the first time they'd had this discussion, and it wouldn't be the last.
How many times do I gotta tell you? Aina is not a golem, okay? She's a doe. It's just she's a bit of a weirdo.
Okay. Lifelike puppets created by Cephis during the Baran Rebellion. They were built to carry specific tasks, from serving tea to wreaking havoc, and resemble Akon with the sole retention to mock the deer. Tradition dictates that their frames are made of brass, porcelain, or marble, making the bulk of their body, an inner core made of rock crystal, silk, fur grass, or real hair decorating their heads and tails. Upon purchase, they would bear the mark of the gazelle that bought them, forsaking all connections to their creator. Most were destroyed during and after the Baran Rebellion, so the ones that remain reach quite a high price among collectors.
Weirdo. Right. Tell me, Adder dearest, how many albino does can you name off the top of your head that can lift your heavy butt with just one hand?
Oh, that song is a classic.
We gotta find her.
Why do I even bother? Look at her. Gollum or not, she's just a little cabbage head hiding in the crowds of this enormous city. She's damn good at hiding. And do you know why people hide?
'Cause they don't want to be found.
Geoff extended his arms towards him in a dramatic manner, remarking how correct he was.
You're not gonna find her. So why don't you go and use your thick skull for something useful? Like bringing us money so we can have dinner for once.
Geoff pointed at the ring with his horns, and Ader knew better than to insist. With a heavy sigh, Ader nodded and began walking toward the ringmaster.
Ah, wait, there's just one more thing. Your bag of coins. You wouldn't want to lose what little we have to the hands of, say, some ill-intentioned crook, now would you?
Better the evil you know, right?
Geoff extended his hand a bit too keenly, waiting for Ader to find the purse he usually hid within his sash. But...
Whoa, Bard, you're really gonna bust a gut laughing.
Don't tell me you lost it.
Alrighty then.
Geoff's scrawny body trembled like a bridge about to snap off.
I really enjoy how much mileage this game gets out of just making the characters shake. And also, this is the second time we've seen Geoff's, like, bitterly repressed anger face.
Alright. See that sweaty blackhead over there with the glistening fur and a charming smile? That's your foe. I'll go place my bet now. Are you feeling like a winner, ladder?
Charming? Oh, hold up. You mean the guy with them sharpened horns? Oh, darn, Bard. Your confidence in this poorly put together row is much appreciated, but as much as it hurts me, and it does, I think I'd rather go to bed hungry today.
What?
What if it hits me in the face? I don't want to go from Adder the one-eyed to Adder the no-eyed.
Then do enlighten me, my boy, on how in the name of the Hatsa do you pretend to become a knight if you can't handle even a rack pointed at you?
I mean, knights do get a lot of racks pointed at them.
Piece of mangy venison. Sorry about that.
What are you mumbling there, Geoff?
I said I'm going to walk you through this. So, oh, help me three if you mess up.
Actual gameplay mechanics?
Let this start with. And a girl, you sure eat your veggies. But all the sticks on your forehead, I can't fool anyone.
If he's serious, this is gonna be easier than I thought.
Wait, there's a fight coming up? Holy horns, you have to tell me everything about it. What kind of fighting style did Adder use? Was it antler rattling? He was a rattler, right? Did he prefer grappling or thrusting? Or was he more of a brawler instead? Swish, swish, bam! Pushing them right into... Wait, did they even have any hand reps his size?
Yeah, please do tell us. We do need to know if he preferred grappling or thrusting.
Give me a moment. I think I have to sneeze. What were any of those words? I don't really know the rules of Karn Valley. I think I had to hit people until they fainted. Oh God, it's nothing can kill them. It can live up to our expectations. I can't deal with the pressure. You said you knew the night like the palm of your hand, didn't you? A new bearer of a tale of this magnitude should have been able to pen a memorable fight scene all on their own. If that's the case, prove you're worthy of your name, Lynn.
Oh my God, you're right! Yes, this is my moment to shine. Leave it to me.
Yes, good. I shall go and leave you to it so as to not influence you.
Let's see, what would the knight do? Right, he needed a few tips first. So Geoff took Adder aside and held him under his arm. He said,
Is this...
Adder, mine lad, 'tis a dangerous fight that awaits us. But if not in the strength of thy body, I believeth in the strength of thine heart. But what thee saith is the greatest feat a fighter should at each moment striveth for.
I really want to see this turn into like terrible slash fan fiction. That is my dearest hope that this entire thing, dear.
Bard, what a tootin', rootin', mighty fine question that is. Adder nodded thoughtfully to himself and then continued, I reckon that would be.
She put on an eye patch for Ader.
She did. It's on the wrong eye, which makes it even more endearing. Endearing.
Of course, it's honor.
So many options.
Of a knight, dearest friend, thou shalt be a rattler then. Ah, honorable style amongst honorable styles. The way our ancestors squareth, where two deer shalt proveth the might of their horns rather than that of their mind. But hoy, Bard, yelped Adder, mine horns are so teeny tiny. Yelp smirked. This is where your strength lieth, mine Adder. There is an advantage to short horns, thou see. No one shalt be able to lock their horns around yours to grapple thee to the ground. Your advice is ne'er unwise, Yoff. This is why I love you so daringly dearly.
And then they kissed.
Lynn has an eye for quality.
You beautiful boar. Everyone will find out.
Yeah.
So loud.
What did I say? What did I say? What did I say? I asked for it. I received it.
Oh, this writer knows their audience.
Yeah, their audience is me.
Oh, Adder. Smudge.
Then, how's that scene going?
It's going.
Magnificent.
Ader
this is also great.
Found himself alone at last. His dearest friend lost to the blurry tides of people surrounding the ring. Veins are starting to pop in his eye, making it even harder for him to see anything except the stag waiting in front of him. The deer with a sharp horn smirked in his drunken haze, clearly looking down on Ader. It wasn't the first time someone pitied him and lived to regret it, as the drunkard would soon learn. The ringmaster looked left and right, making sure that both fighters knew what they were about to get into. He lifted his hand carefully as he stepped back, and then, go! He screamed with a hand chop.
Oh ho!
Holy ho ho!
Oh ho!
I have no idea.
Turn, parry, dodge, spin, thrust.
There's no time to hesitate. Both the Row and his opponent rushed toward each other head first, heeding the scream of the ancient instinct that boiled in their bloods.
The ancient instinct to knock their heads together.
Every voice in the alley fell silent once the deer slammed into each other, horns singing a threatening melody as they rattled fiercely in a never-ending battle for dominance.
Oh.
The tension could be cut with a knife as their foreheads pushed against each other, but Geoff's advice proved unerring indeed. As much as he tried, the bigger deer could not intertwine his antlers around Ader's short, straight ones.
Now what?
The answer was clear, of course. A barrage of swift punches to the other deer's face would have sent his brain bouncing all over his skull. It would have been an obvious choice to any honorless ruffian. Refusing to even consider such lowly tactics, our hero decided to take the moral high ground. And the physical, too. Tired of this pointless dance, the deer pushed Ader back with swift head movement. Before Ader had a chance to react, his foe slammed his head just below the Row's chest, knocking all the air out of him and lifting him right off the ground with ease. Ader flailed his one free arm in his leg most valiantly, but there was little he could do in such a compromising position, worn out as he was after trying to uphold his honor as a brave warrior with such a direct approach. And crack! I could not tell if that was the sound of Ader's neck or Ader's teeth as he hit the ground at full speed, but little did that matter, for nothing lay more broken than his dreams.
Ouch.
You're dead.
You're dead to everyone. Wow, okay.
Oh, you actually died.
Okay.
I guess wait
this was
is
the only
option.
other option. The tower deer charged toward Ader like a runaway fur. Hordes lined and ready to slam into him with the full force of a Nakadar stampede. But the Row didn't move a single muscle. Ader merely waited, silencing all the voices that screamed at him to run and die. He didn't even assume the step rider's stance. He just waited, closing his eyes lest the sight of his incoming enemy would betray his nerve. When the time was right...
I'd say grapple him myself, but I mean, he's got huge hands.
Mentally prepared and ready for the incoming attack. Or so he thought. The deer slammed his head into Ader's stomach, nearly sending him to the ground with a single well-placed blow. But when all seemed lost, Ader managed to stand his ground, rapidly holding onto his foe's horns. Ader's foe smirked. By the time our heroes realized he had fallen into his trap, his whole body was hovering several arms over the ground.
And crack.
The carrot strikes back. What a foul move. He would have turned Ader into a strainer if the yellow deer had a single bite's worth of meat in his body. If that had been the case to begin with, he would have been able to struggle against his enemy's hold as he flew across the sky. Or at least, he would have been serene enough to come up with a different approach to the situation. But for now, face to pavement it is.
Well, this was not quite how you're dead to me.
After such a shameful defeat, the writer decided to take a page from Ader's book, literally. She began writing these words as a means to stall her own anxiety as she tried to understand how she managed to dig herself into such a negative hole. She had certainly made a mistake somewhere. It's obvious to her prodigious mind that a boy so preoccupied with doing what was good and true and right would hardly be willing to do whatever it took to stand victorious and carve a space for himself in the annals of history. Our wonderful narrator started to realize that perhaps she had misunderstood something about Ader, for she could picture no scenario where a well-meaning and upstanding street fighter could ever get past his first night in the Slander District.
That is a lot of syllables.
Omalindabili of Askadaz, true descendant of the night, decided to revisit her decision, thinking more deeply about what kind of priorities her ancestor would have.
Ah, so thou art a brawler, dearest friend. I have indeed taughteth you well. There is no honor in death. If thine horns will not aid you in battle, use those hands the gods gave you. Pummel them to the ground. Thou shalt win this fight and prevail until the next. But hoy, bard, yelped Adder. Mine hands are so bogglingly big. Yuff smirked. All the better to swat their faces away. If they trieth to thrust towards thee with their large horns, thou shalt only need to slap them into the ground. Stand victorious over those who would hurt you, mine Adder.
Amazing.
All right, so I'm guessing wait. Because you want to slap them down. Wait again? Because grapple last time just made you lose.
Thwack! Ader spun the tip of his hooves and struck his opponent with such force that he swatted him straight into the ground. You may think, wow, that's kind of anticlimactic. But it was everything but for Ader. Everything but. Both the public and the ringmaster tilted their heads as they stared at the man lying on his snout, a bit unsure about the nature of the event they had just witnessed. But what they saw was nothing but the truth. Taking Geoff's advice to heart, Ader obtained a beautiful, simple victory. Down! Screamed the ringmaster. Ader won the fight and lived to see another day. Wait, so he wins?
Of course he wins. He's the knight, you doof.
Right. Never mind then. Well done.
I'm pretty great, yes.
Now is it Storm Page you're trying to hide behind your back?
Wait, don't!
Oh, boy.
So anyway.
I can't believe it! Still alive and kicking! Come on, show me the money, Bard! I want to bite every single coin!
You have to share that with the rest of the class. Mysterious silhouetted narrator.
Geoff covered his face with his hands, making some sort of unintelligible noise that can only be described as a very sound of anguish.
Hey, Big Ed, I want to learn some tips too. I'll buy you dinner.
Hey now, sir, you really think you're gonna steal my manager away, so...
Geoff shut Ader's snout with one hand.
My dear boy, you sure gave it all today, so why don't you go and enjoy what's left of the fair? I have a gig in the tavern later. Money, yes. Don't expect me tonight.
With that,
and thus he lives up to the reputation of all bards.
Geoff hurriedly shooed a very confused Ader away. Our protagonist wandered back toward the increasingly empty and silent plaza, unsure of where he was headed next. His victory had been but a brief rush against mediocrity, and now that he was alone, his mind seeked the comfort of a familiar place, a seething pit in his chest. No, he had no business there. Ader spent enough nights hungry and alone to learn to eat his emotions for dinner, but still, his stomach protested, demanding to know when their next real meal would arrive. He could only walk a little farther to chase those thoughts away. No matter how resilient he was, he would eventually get tired and stagger his way back home. Fall asleep in his little corner, dream a sleepless dream, wake up to a drunk Geoff crashing in. He'd head off to work and...
Fall asleep and dream a sleepless dream? Don't they mean a dreamless sleep?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't... okay.
He'd head off to work and A&O would get him some food. That's right. He held no doubt in his heart that his boss would come back. What had he made such a fuss for? And had never missed a single day of work in a whole year he'd been working for her. And anyway, she was way stronger than him. What could he do?
This is definitely not foreshadowing.
He had no reason to say grand words or worry like he did. He never had. Sparse groups of citizens and visitors all around him still celebrated this blessed day, dances and melodies and pastries, and the drifter from down yonder the steps would never be allowed to take part in. It was just another empty day in the life of Aderson, son of Gerfaz. An abrupt lapse of lucidity made Ader turn his head away from his hooves at last. His ears perked up and his fur stood on end as he tried to make sense of the careless trip he'd just taken. The music was deafening all around him, the crowd untraversable. He didn't know how far he'd walked or how he'd managed to make some space for himself, but it was obvious now he had stumbled into some sort of performance. A stage where the whole city would be looking. What a dream. But a remote voice in the back of his thoughts told him that he didn't have time to find out what kind of show could attract such a crowd. That was not where he was supposed to be. He knew his gut hadn't been lying to him when he caught sight of a small flickering light coming from a discreet tent around which the crowd seemed to be oddly absent. His eye wouldn't budge away from that curious flame shining in the dark. He sensed its offer, warm and loud. Ader didn't even consider for 1 second that he may have been too hungry to think straight. He ignored all the warnings common sense would have taught him and marched straight into the tent. Dusk was still a ways off, but it may as well have been midnight inside. Ader combed the darkness separately, startled by the sudden change in illumination. Sweet, frightful clarity once more. What in the name of the Hatsa was I thinking? He pondered in a breathless silence as his mind started conjuring bandits, assassins, and monsters ready to tear his cape into pieces and fashion toothpicks out of his horns for having been so reckless. But he didn't get to fret long, as his fears were interrupted by the birth of a flame in the corner of his sight. Its flare grew with unmeasured force, blinding him for a moment. He struggled to regain his vision, fearing those foes that only lived in his mind. Foes he wouldn't face today, either. Bathing in the light of an orb that was filled with fire, shaded in ways that made no sense whatsoever, awaited a feminine silhouette.
Okay, I'm ready.
Feminine silhouette.
I'm very ready.
Took you long.
Yeah, I knew it.
Of course it was her.
Yeah, it's not a living.
What did you just say?
And all of a sudden, Ader wished he'd found a bandit instead. At least he would have known where to look then.
Ader, my boy, I know where to look.
He tried to fix his gaze on her eyes, shining above a thin pink veil that covered most of her face, but that was in vain. The sequins that hung from her neck reflected the light all over the room, dragging Ader's attention right back to them and the scarf that covered the bare minimum. I have 1,000 words to call the woman in front of him, and none of them are good, so let's just say that what she was wearing would be inappropriate now, let alone then.
Don't just
I'm into
stand there. Take a seat.
I don't know. I've been sitting on my tail all day, and I got places to go, and I don't usually share tents with ladies, and...
Judging by her glare, she wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Sit your ass down.
What am I saying? It'd have been mighty ugly of me to reject an invitation.
Ader did as he did as asked and sat down on one of the many pillows laying around.
That was a great noise.
Pretending to be crazy, escaping, begging gods for mercy, breaking down, and claiming that he wasn't in fact a horn eater. That this was just a mistake and he shouldn't be there. Dater's mind was bustling with ways of getting out of that situation. So, of course, whenever his mind was busy, his mouth was free to speak as it pleased.
Hi.
He spoke with a voice more akin to that of a fawn, whose antlers are just beginning to sprout than that of a fully grown deer.
I'm Ader. Nice place.
I'm Anderson,
Both of these
son
are-
of Griffin, the buck who farms the highest hill in my village, Ravina Otis. So, here and there, just about everywhere, folks know me as Adder, of the upper field.
That's nice.
Ain't it? It better be, because it's a lie, ma'am. They call me Long-Neck Shorthorns, or Adder Shovel Hands, or sometimes even Adder Shoe Face.
A mocking chuckle stabbed Ader's heart. Feeling even more self-conscious than he thought he was capable of, he held onto his hooves and fixed his gaze on the ground, screaming inside as his face burned.
So it wasn't the contusion after all, huh? You're just like that.
Like what now?
Oh, you know, a himbo.
Funny? Me? Not one bit, ma'am. I ain't got a funny bone in my body. Doc and I ain't ever seen worse jokes than Adder scenes. Hold up. Didn't that sound like a poem just now? Well, darn. A poem ain't nothing but a dull song, Mr. Bard always says so. I'd hate to bore a fine lady such as yourself, so I better get...
Bore me? Please. With hands like those, you wouldn't look out of place in a traveling circus, or in some lord's court, if you're any good at juggling. In fact, I know a certain gazelle in dire need of entertainment. What do you say? One word from Jacif, and you will be working in a palace tonight.
Ader couldn't quite figure out if that meant to be an insult or a compliment, but he was quick to decide that it was better to work for someone that didn't talk than for someone that talked about herself in third person.
I think I'm gonna pass for now, but I'll holler at you next time I'm fresh out of pride, ma'am.
A deep silence filled the tent. Ader cursed his luck and his good manners. He wanted to run away and hide, fearing that otherwise he'd commit a big mistake. Kind of mistake that would get him called a horn eater for the rest of his life.
Well then, it was sure nice to see you again, but...
Would you like to know your fortune?
He turned on his heel, desperate to find out if her offer was indeed true. There was nothing that betrayed a lie in her words nor in her eyes.
Whoa!
She just looks into the crystal ball and...
Tellers? For real?
And all she says is like, "You're going to get lucky tonight."
And then what happens? He gets lucky.
And then fade to black, and he's just like, "Well."
Let's just say that
No,
they
the real
look
thing is she
rather-
says he's gonna get lucky and then kicks him out onto the street, and he's just like, "Wait, with who?"
Let's just say they looked rather different back in Ader's town.
Well, slap my head and call me silly. I got you pegged all wrong, man. Darn right, I'd love to hear it.
No, you misunderstand.
Oh, my best coins. I ain't got a single Doro on me, so...
She's like, no, you misunderstand. I'm the one that's going to be pegging you.
Something flew onto the ground right beside Ader's foot.
My bag?
You dropped it right after you crashed the first time. I meant to give it back, but since you were so bent on running through that wall...
You didn't steal from it, did you?
Steal what? It's just filled with rivets.
Aha! That means you opened
I'll be right back.
So much for wanting to see you again. That was all. You can go now if you want.
Punch to the gut would have hurt Ader infinitely less than her words. What am I doing? He thought to himself, biting the inside of his cheek. No mere thief would have returned his bag, and sad as that was, no other person would have gone so far for him. And so he sat down once more, looking at the finely yet scarcely dressed woman in front of him with a mix of embarrassment, naivete, and just plain fear.
I don't suppose you accept rivets as payment.
That would depend on what you're paying for.
I'm liking her more by the moment.
Just keep them.
She rested her arms over the crystal orb, leaning closer to Adder.
All right! Can you look into the ball thing and tell me how my ma and pa are doing? Did any of my little bros get married yet?
That's cute. But it's a reading glass, not a magic mirror.
Right.
I do not know the difference.
Can you give them good harvests?
Take your prayers to the temple.
Oh, darn, that won't do either. Alrighty then, how about me? What do you see in this buck's future?
Your future? Why would you want to know anything about that? Life would be boring if you knew what waits around every corner. I'll read your past and justify your present.
But I already know those.
Sure.
I don't.
Files.
Her blue eyes spoke like an insinuating whisper. Her fingers walked over the cobblestone ground, headed toward Ader's own hands as her face got ever so close.
For example, we could talk about why you did what you did for me then, and figure out what I could do to return the favor now.
Sequins that hung from her sash rang as they hit the ground, reminding him once more of her less than modest clothing. But no, she was no dough.
I gotta insist, ma'am, that you definitely got the wrong buck. But even if I ever did anything nice for you in my life, a simple thanks is more than enough payment.
I guess you could use a reminder too.
The soothsayer made no attempt to conceal her disappointment, much like no one had ever made any attempt to explain to her what coming on too strong means. With a parentedium, she grabbed the crystal orb and put it right between her face and Ader's. This time, she had no more pretensions than merely watching him.
Oh fire, tell me the secrets in the... yada yada, stuff in Bazaktet. I don't feel like switching languages now.
Her complete lack of professionalism made Ader feel for once at ease. After all, what would he do if he was indeed in front of a Sephi, one of those heinous Baron wizards from far back in time? Cry, beg, try to escape? Wait, those are things he'd already thought of doing. Ader was considering the subtle differences in fears he felt when talking to a girl and imagining being burnt to a crisp by a witch. She watched him. She kept watching. And then she watched some more. Gazelle lifted her head from behind the glass as she squinted her eyes into fine lines. Whatever she was looking for, she couldn't find, but she still ducked behind the orb once more, hoping to reach some kind of conclusion. Focused with such intensity that her eyebrows could have split her forehead in two, and she wouldn't have noticed. Jasif pressed her mouth to one side, wiggled her nose, and opened her eyes so wide at him that Ader couldn't help but laugh.
Shush! It's easier with two.
She mumbled the last part to herself, but Ader was sure that she'd said eyes.
Oh, what's that? You ain't never done it with a one-eyed deer before?
I bet you asked that of all the girls.
Ader wanted to press his lips together like he wanted to make them disappear. Jasif merely rose an eyebrow. The accidental innuendo made him begin shaking from horns and hooves once more.
Screw this.
She pushed the orb away with a exasperated sigh. Before Ader knew what was going on, his face was in her hands and her face right in front of his.
I need to find out if it was you after all. Stay still.
Drumbeat in his ears. That was Ader's heartbeat as she stared into him so intently. There was a lump in his throat. He did his best not to tremble. His eye began feeling heavy, though he tried to hold her gaze. She was muttering something, words about his past, but her voice became obscured by the noise of the bells, the crackling of the fire, the sound of her own eyelashes batting against each other.
It's really too sodding late to be dealing with pests like you. And yet, here we are, wasting my time and yours.
Hey! What's that supposed to...
Ader's complaint vanished at its spear point. Two guards are replacing Gazelle, one old and complacent and one young, eager and inches away from stabbing his nose.
Just who do you think you are?
Who do you think I am?
That was Jasif's voice. As much as he tried to find her, Ader couldn't see her. In fact, he couldn't even move at all.
What? Ugh, I won't fall for your bar and mind tricks, Gazelle. I don't care if you're Jaseed or a Jasud. Only nobles are allowed to walk the royal pathway. No exceptions!
Ader felt a lump in his throat as he unwillingly looked over the railings that he was leaning against.
I don't suppose you expect me to jump off the bridge.
The younger guard opened his mouth to reply, but his partner cut in line.
Can't you see that you're scaring her, you dimwit? Take a step back!
What? But she's trespassing!
The younger guard got smacked in the head for his efforts.
Settle down, boy! You forgot to clean your ears this morning or what? She said she's Jasif. Jasif! This girl's far more than nobility, see? She's a queen. The queen of the desert rose, no less. Now that's what I call a fancy title.
Call it whatever you please. It won't change the fact I am the one and only Jasif, and you are a dear with good taste. You must have heard my name in 100 whispers. So, just imagine how terribly worried Miss Rochelle will be if her favorite girl doesn't make it home before dawn.
Liar! There's no way the Desert Rose would have someone like you! Your kin shouldn't even be outside after curfew!
My kin? You mean gazelles who could buy your whole street?
So much for the open-minded youth. Forgive this fool, Your Majesty. He's so uptight I think he sat on his spear. I'm sure you know his kin. A fawn like him wouldn't know royalty if it spat in his face. He's got a point, though. Any gazelle could sneak up here and say she's a queen because she's the daughter of a goat with a bald spot on her head. You understand, right? We can't just take your word for it. Nothing personal, of course. It's just common sense. Here's a thought. Why don't you sway us with a little dance? I'm sure that Jasif would do anything for her subjects.
What are you saying, you numbskull? We're on duty, and she's not even a... Ugh, three's sake! We should just drag her to the dungeon and end this nonsense!
Yeah, spare me the lecture, kid. Hey, do one of those bar and dance things. That'll shut him right up. You know, the one with the fire and the bells and the...
The older guard cupped his chest and pretended to dance as he cackled, much to the revulsion of everyone involved. Ader could feel the tip of his tongue scraping against his teeth, far smaller and more well-aligned than he ever remembered them being. His patience was growing worryingly thin.
I could dance for you, if you don't mind having an early cremation.
Huh? Was that a threat just now?
Not at all. I'm just pointing out that I'm not dressed for the occasion. It would be a pity if your face was to catch fire and your skin burst into flames, turning your bones to charcoal inside your blazing corpse while your ashes moldered up here. Just because I didn't have a fireproof shirt.
Right. Well, it doesn't look like you have any other way to prove your words, Your Majesty.
I suppose I don't, but I bet my good friend Illigrab could find a way to prove them for me.
And walk you all the way across the city on the off chance we find that fidget arse of a tree sitting at his desk? We don't get paid that much, little lady.
A victorious smile crossed Ader's face, an opening at least.
Ah, I understand now.
At last.
A discount isn't even remotely enough to cover the entrance cost of the Desert Rose on a poor, hard-working guard's salary. And that's not even adding the price of my performances.
The old guard's eyes shot open as he felt a few coins slipping into his hand.
Don't worry. I'm sure there's some places down the street that are better suited to your taste.
He remained transfixed by the money a moment longer until something seemed to click all in his head all of a sudden.
Who do you take me for, scamp? We are honor-bound city guards. We won't get buffed by the likes of you.
What? Come on. This was more than enough last time. Why isn't it working now?
The guards didn't react to that sentence at all. It was like they hadn't heard her when Jasif's voice sounded loud and clear in Ader's ears. That thought passed as soon as it came. The quick, anxious looks of the old guard was directing at his partner and became the new focus of Ader's attention. The moment they locked eyes, the answer he'd been looking for became evident.
Of course. I should have noticed sooner. He's a new recruit, isn't he? Look at him. So eager and uptight. So focused on proving his worth to the captain. So predictable. You couldn't possibly trust someone like him with a bribe. He's too different from your old partner. But you couldn't trust that one either, could you? No, he knew too much. And he wasn't half as jaded as you are. His heart wasn't really in it. Aha, I see. You had a feeling he would end up going after you. So, you sold him out first. That's why he's here.
How did you...
What? So she's telling the truth! You take bribes?
No, well, maybe if it's enough. I mean, come on. It's just a god's damned bridge. What's the matter if we let rich people in at this point? They're no different from nobles. But I swear, I'd never gotten money from this. No, I'd never even seen this. Gazelle?
Guard's face contorted into a deeply wrinkled scowl. He looked beyond confused, lost. The song was reaching its final notes.
Aw, looks like your friend has a bad case of guilty conscience. That's okay. I'm no one to judge. Just let me go this time. I promise I'll be a good girl and head straight home. You won't even know I've been here.
Ader started to walk, a little spring in his step as something he barely recognized as a tail wagged behind him. He felt above the moon, completely drunk from his power trip, but he was far from safe still. Strong hand clasped Ader's wrist tightly. This told him all he needed to know, that this body wasn't his body and this mind wasn't his mind.
But who else could it have been? You are the Jessif, aren't you? You really could buy this whole street if you wanted. It was you! It was you all along! What did you do to me?
I only gave you money.
You gave me cursed money! No, you cast a spell on me!
What in the world are you rambling about now? You sound like a madman!
Yeah, that's right. I have gone mad. It's not my fault. I'm not really a crook. She's a Sephi. She must have charmed me to do all those bad things. We're on to you, witch! Confess!
Every last fiber of her body was screaming at her to run. Jessif knew each and every corner of the royal pathway. She could have just hidden somewhere or outran two guards wearing heavy armor. That was the correct option. It was obvious to her. But that was not the choice she made. She pulled close to him and moved a smirk towards his ear instead.
I wouldn't waste any magic on you.
There wasn't any trace of fear in Jessif's spine as the guard grabbed her collar and pushed her against the railing. Not a speckle of resignation. It wasn't bravery either. There was nothing but anticipation. Ader didn't know the name of the eerie warmth that was creeping onto her chest as she watched the tip of his spear turn towards him in slow motion. He had never felt anything quite so peaceful and thrilling before. But to her, this lost battle seemed to be worth as much as a victory. After all, she had been playing with fire her whole life. Getting burnt was all an eventuality she had been ready to accept for years. She was tired of making choices. Fractions of a second before the end of her life could be sentenced, a scream shook the night.
Get your mitts off her, you creep!
Everyone turned around to look at the idiot yelling all the way down on the ground.
Think you can just bother a lass because she looks good enough for second helpings and then dessert? Well, you can't, all right? That's radish stew, and you'd make your mom cry if they knew. Let her go!
Ader had most certainly gone crazy.
What the? Oh, get lost, Sanford! This is official city business! It's got nothing to do with you!
City business, my ass! You're holding a gal up against the wall! I ain't got nothing to do with it, but it's still got everything to do with me! If it's so official, I'm gonna scream till the whole city wakes up and sees this!
No, you're not! Do something, rookie! Get rid of that drunkard!
What, you want me to throw my spear at some poor horn-eater now?
Okay, here's a weird thing. The young guard actually... The person who voices the young guard actually has a very long filmography credit.
Oh, interesting.
Trying to see if I actually recognize anything. They were in B&A.
Oh, well, that's fitting.
A lot of them are additional voices, though. Oh, Lewis and Beastars.
Oh, well then.
Interesting.
Sounds like he's getting a little bit typecast.
Wow. Yeah, all right. I didn't know you could get typecast as a serving.
If your vocabulary is good at it, sure. Why not?
He played Spitz in Warrior Wear Gold.
By the way, where are you seeing their voice actors?
There's an IMDb page for this game.
Yeah.
Oh.
I linked it in the Twitch chat earlier. I can also link it in the Discord.
He's also the voice for the male Volpera in World of Warcraft.
Oh, the what?
The male Volpera.
Oh, okay.
Who you calling a horn eater? Just hold up there!
Ader, the pudgy version of Ader, that is, wasn't concerned with matters such as complete lack of grace, agility, or strength. Moved by a sense of justice, he began climbing the column that led to the royal pathway. Of course, he'd never made it.
Hey! Are you still alive? Horn eater!
God, he does look so chubby.
We can't just leave him to die all on his own. Guess
Let's go down there and kill him.
Yet, witch.
Puzzling as the scene was, Jasif realized that she didn't have another second to lose. With the guard's hand still firmly wrapped around her collar and pushing her back, Jasif threw all her weight on one leg, using her tail as leverage to complete a practice spin that ended with her knee sinking deep between the deer's legs. He immediately dropped to the ground, but it wasn't quite enough to knock him out.
You little.
That's enough. Let's go.
But she kicked me, and she's a witch. She's.
I have no clue what this gazelle is or what she's not, but I can tell just fine what you are. I'm not leaving you another second with her. Get that old ass back to the barracks or I'm telling Illigrab what you just did!
It was the older guard's turn to go pale. He lowered his helmet and began limping in the other direction. The younger guard, however, stood in front of her a moment longer.
You, go home and don't let me catch you up here again.
Jasif only allowed herself to breathe easy once again once both guards had disappeared from sight. Pride filled her lungs faster than air.
Good riddance.
She wasn't quite out of the woods yet, but she decided to savor this victory. A moment of peace, which Jasif took to look over the railings one last time. Her wannabe savior now lay unconscious on the ground after hitting his head during the fall. And in spite of how miserable the scene was, Ader could feel a smile forming on her face. Finally understood that, crazy or not, Neo was seeing what she was seeing the way she saw it.
Did I scare him good?
Huh? You're awake? How in the name of Oblivion can you be conscious after a fall like that? You must be at least 5 stories high. Are we even trying to... No. That doesn't matter now. Are you hurt? Should I call a doctor?
Are you all right, ma'am?
No. No, I'm not hurt. So, yes, that was nothing. I'm fine. Thank you.
And that's all this book needs to feel fit as a fiddle.
What? No, I'm rather certain that's not how bodies work.
Oh, no, ma'am. You're thinking normal deer here. I'm something else entirely.
Drunk is what you must be.
I sure hope not. It'd be a real shame if some barrel fever ruined the memory of your pretty face.
It wouldn't make much of a difference either way.
What was that, ma'am?
Cad! You are a cad! Does this look like a good time to be flirting to you?
This yell bounced through the columns, nearly sending Jesse's heart straight out of her chest.
Don't know about flirting, but it sure looks like a good time to get walking.
Then get up and walk! I can't just leave you to your fate now!
No, you ain't. You ain't leaving no one, ma'am. Slum dwellers like me come a darn dozen. I'll just play dead for a while and see if I can spend the night in the morgue.
More patrols were surely drawing closer by the minute, demanding she made a choice pronto.
This doesn't end here, understood? I will make it up to you somehow, so don't you dare die until then. Promise you won't forget it.
Whoa, wait,
Forget what?
Hold up. Who am I supposed to look for? I didn't even catch your...
Neither Ada understood why she chose to run then, but she ran. She ran before that pitiful buck laying on the ground could finish voicing his request, pretending she hadn't heard him. But the answer she didn't give to the question he couldn't ask lingered a little longer in the space between old hopes and delusions, a sight that Ader found too engrossing to realize he was being left behind. Now the gazelle was far out of his reach, and with every step, he felt her slipping away from his grasp a little further. He tried to keep up, but his legs wouldn't respond to it if it wasn't to her command. He tried to breathe, but he wasn't the master of his own lungs. His sight went dark and his ears turned deaf, a violent torrent of foreign thoughts clobbering his brain as his mind dissolved back into the nether. And as suddenly as he left, he found himself, one-eyed, famished, and back in the tent. Indeed, this had to be him. The same gazelle was still breathing over his snout, blue eyes fixed on him with the intensity of a burning sun. Who cares about having a half-naked beauty all over their body? Not Ader anymore, no.
I care. I care very much.
A million questions filled his mind. Was that the real life?
Was it just fantasy? Caught in a landslide?
Or any more of his memory slipping through the many cracks in his fogged skull? Or has his starvation finally started to take a toll upon his very brain? As was usually the case, however, his lips refused to wait for a finished script. They raced past Ader's mind, offering an answer to the only question he had never even asked.
Sip?
This word, so short and unassuming, seemed to awaken something in the girl that Ader was almost too dazed to recognize. He couldn't tell yet why her ears perked up, or why his gaze was immediately drawn to her horns and the beautiful mass of red locks she was desperately pulling behind them. Disconcert washed away all conceit from her expression. It took away all the mesmerizing superiority from her eyes. Yes, she looked honestly and utterly tiny for that. Scared.
Where did you hear that?
Where did I... Oh! Ma'am, you're okay! You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I heard you say it just now. But not now. It was a long time ago. I was under Hirup's statue. I mean, you were, but I was you and not me because I was trying to save you, but I fell on my face and those guards laughed at me and... just how the hell did I forget any of this? Why can't I remember?
You're a
Shake it
gaze reader.
Anger hit her like a wave as the shock disappeared.
Why didn't you say so? Get away from me!
Fire in the orb began flickering erratically, casting disturbing shadows all over the tent.
Whoa, what's going on? What in the name of Atza did I do now? Was I supposed to say something? Thank you. That's the magic word?
Do you seriously expect me to believe that you...
Hold on. Sip? It was Sip, wasn't it? Oh crap, I just went and cussed a lady out in Gazelle speak, didn't I?
She looked at him with skepticism. Her eyes squinted with barely concealed anger. She was clearly sizing him up.
No. You really don't have a clue of what you just did, do you?
Ma'am, if I ever got a clue in my life, it wasn't today. I'm just glad you're alright and that guard is in the dungeon or dead or something.
Her expression relaxed just a little as she considered Ader's words. Our poor boy had more than enough trying to get some air into his lungs.
Then you're telling me that you're a natural gaze reader? Do you even understand what this means?
Is it anything like being a horn eater?
You about to get out your tongue?
God, I love when he makes that face.
A small chuckle erased all the tension from her face. Ader felt even more confused upon seeing this.
I was trying to read your gaze, but you read mine instead. It's called gaze because we invented
Okay, I'm back.
it.
Welcome back.
So,
A lot of things have happened.
Let's hear what you say
I'm
about
sure.
Yellow Deer. You must have Barhan blood.
Ader would have normally disputed the last affirmation. Roe deer took pride in being real deer, no gazelle blood at all. Nope, 100% deer with those that don't have horns, but this was clearly not the moment nor the company to say that.
In Sirnar, please.
You read my mind.
Say what? I think I'm not the funny one here, Missy.
The gazelle seemed way too amused with this development.
No, it makes so much sense. I was wondering why you spent so much time looking at my face.
As opposed to, everywhere else.
I'm sure you've always been really good at getting people's feelings. But not smart enough to actually understand them. You're like some kind of savant hick. That's hilarious.
A wrinkle formed over Ader's snout. That was quite enough.
My name is Adder, not Hick, Miss Sep. Now why'd you go hiding such a cute little name, I wonder?
Face went back to being a little more than a pretension of grandeur, but she held the fire close to her. She didn't look all that different from a child hugging her blanket, soothed by the rhythm of the bells she wore.
I disagree. She looks very different from that.
Ader couldn't help but notice that her alarming clothing didn't even bother him anymore. You know what? I like all the clothing in this game.
Yeah, it's cute.
I like
the
the
character
colors
design
and
is cute
patterns.
too. I need to look up who the artist of this game is.
Just a stupid nickname someone gave me. I hadn't heard it in years. They call me Jasif now.
Jasif, as that disgusting guard well said, that was no average name, and much less for a barhound.
Ain't that something like Queen in Gazelle speak?
Bazaktet. And yes, that's a valid translation. Do you have any qualms about it?
Ader did not have any qualms per se, nor any remote idea what that word meant to begin with, but he certainly had opinions on her supposed royalty.
Yes, Queen.
Okay, so absolute terrified resignation to the fact, or a slight questioning.
It's also funny that they would have a reference to Bohemian Rhapsody during this conversation with her, with all this concern about whether or not she's a queen.
It's either smug or submissive. That's the way I'm reading this.
Right, which one is the sure path to get them to smooch?
I would say the bottom one. Yes.
No,
I say that too.
No, that's cool, Jasif. Did I say that right? I mean, if you need people calling you Queen to be happy.
I don't need to be called anything to...
Ader didn't mean anything with that, but he'd somehow managed to say something rude all the same. She didn't finish the sentence, deciding instead to just look away.
Are you all right?
She turned her face sharply towards his. There was something different in the way she was looking at him.
Adder, right?
That's me.
He took his hand to his heart and bowed his head as an instinctive greeting, accidentally clashing his horns against hers. He was surprised to find out that, somehow, that was a lot less gross than he thought it'd be. He didn't know how to feel about this appreciation.
Didn't you want to know your future? Then listen closely.
She put her mouth right next to his ear and whispered.
That is not his ear.
Tonight.
Where?
You really are one of a kind. Come to the Desert Rose when the lights are all out. My room is on the first floor, but climbing there should be easier than climbing the bridge at the very least.
All right, the Desert Rose is clickable.
Room? There you go saying weird stuff again. I'm not a thief, and I'm not a hoarding...
I like how the game just muffles his voice at that moment.
Planets? You're not telling me there's more than one planet in this game.
Oh man, I thought it was like Aladdin.
Stoker, did you see the thing I linked in the chat?
Yes, I did, and thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
Weird, I don't see it in the encyclopedia.
Maybe you have to click on it when it comes up.
There's a bunch of stuff that's appearing that
Maybe sort by unread or just sort alphabetically. Or maybe like you click it and existence after death. This is a very, very intense encyclopedia, very comprehensive.
In the world of Dakna, life is celebrated for as long as it lasts, but death is not wept with much ardor. Life is borrowed from the future and taken from the past. It is therefore understood that death is an eventuality, but not a permanent state for the soul, or is something borrowed from the universe itself. The punishment for a Shafid is to be burned in life, and attempting to have all future lives remember the suffering that comes from stealing from the future.
Okay.
Without previous warning, the fire in the orb extinguished, leaving the room in total darkness. Ader didn't even have time to feel alarmed. He felt her hands on the back of his head, and next he knew her lips were over his. His mind shut up completely. There's your smooching, Stoker.
Finally!
See you later.
Couldn't even stop to consider how he felt about that before the kiss was over. With his mind still in a daze, he got up and turned around to leave. For a few moments, he stood frozen outside the tent, merely appreciating the cool dust breeze on his fur. By the time his thoughts began making any sense, he was already running home at full speed, crying disconsolately about the realization that he was, in fact, a horn eater. Let's take a break here. I want to review what you've written so far.
What, you don't trust my writing skills?
No, obviously.
Feels good to be loved.
It really does.
So, Adder was a gaze reader, just like me.
Yes.
And he really was into Sep in the end, which explains a few things.
Like the fact that she's my great-great-grandmother.
If Adder and Geoff had an unlikely yet alluring, brief, intense romantic involvement, how would it have been called? Get it?
Pandering.
Is this going anywhere at all?
Huh? What do you mean? You've learned a lot about your beloved knight already, haven't you?
Yeah, sure. Don't take me wrong. I like your take on the story so far. I just can't figure out how any of this leads to him becoming a knight, much less the knight.
Patience, little Nashcap. All shall be revealed.
Like your major crush on Sep?
What?
You can put all the words you want in Adder's mouth. I know an obsession when I see one.
Go get your eyes checked then.
I'm gonna go back and count how many times you've mentioned her butt.
That's it. You're not hearing another word about her.
What? Boo! This is a biased recount. I'm calling Radish Stew on this.
I never claimed to be objective, you tiny insurgent. It's my story, and I'll share it however I see fit.
Unbelievable! You are silencing the very truth you champion! Whatever shall become of Adder's story if you bereave us of the booty?
Yeah, you tell him, Lynn.
Give us the booty.
There are more characters in this story, you know.
Or were you in love with them too?
Looking back on it, there is someone I should have loved more. Honestly, she was a bit rough around the edges, and she wasn't always the easiest kid to be around, but the reward for persevering by her side was the unwavering loyalty of an iron-hearted friend.
Sounds like a nice girl.
Oh no, she was horrible and I hate her.
Okay, like the writing of this has really grown on me since we started.
This is well-written fan fiction, I'll be honest with you.
Oh my goodness.
If it ain't my...
That's basically the best way I can describe this game right now. Well-written fan fiction.
It's very good. It's very cute.
I mean, it's like everyday fan fiction, but they put some good heart into it. And I like it.
Also, how perfectly timed for the chapter to end.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, mercy. Well, this has been quite the experience.
I missed most of it, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, well, just go back and watch the video on demand. There's a lot of moments to appreciate in this game.
I will. It was good.
All right, hold on. Before we go to bed, I have one thing. I need to get a poll on everyone's ship here. Are you Adder Geoff? Are you Adder Sep? Or are you Adder Elise?
Bold of you to presume that I would only ship two characters together.
I probably have to go with Sep, but I'm not sure who Elise is much. So
the mute girl. I can't remember her name.
She was pretty cool, but I don't know much about her. I have to find out first.
I don't like Geoff. I don't. Sorry.
You don't like our slutty bard?
No, he's not.
Do I repeat myself?
Maybe the mute girl.
Find that mute button, Jonas.
Find the mute button.
It's not because she's mute. It's I just think she's cute. It's in other words.
Not because she's mute. It's because she's cute.
Yeah,
she is. She's cute. I just don't know much about her personality yet, but I'm going to find out.
So yeah, that's my vote, I guess.
That's cool.
But I mean, isn't what's her face destined to be the ancestor of so and so?
Isn't what's her face?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. It's not explicitly obvious yet, but I feel like that's probably where it's going. I'm also very, very interested in finding out exactly who the shadowy figure is. Is it the bard? Is it someone else? Is it somehow Ader himself, having been alive for God knows how long. Like, there's something going on here.
I already think it's Ader. The way the eye expressions are.
He doesn't seem tall enough. How to get shorter? That's a question.
You shrink when you age. That's my explanation.
He didn't eat enough calcium.
I'm gonna put my bet on the table, and that it is the mute girl, and that she was a golem, or like she was the merchant's. Like he lost his daughter and he couldn't give her up, and so he created a golem to look like her.
He does have the height, so I do support that theory. But yes, I do think it's Ader just because the personality narrator has at the moment. But I know Ader's like a lot more innocent right now, but something tells me that changes, and his eye expression just reminds me of Ader.
I don't know.
Well, we know that Ader now knows that he is, in fact, a horn eater. So,
what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think? Like, comment, and subscribe. Vote now on your phones.
All right. And since Legotron won't let this go, Stoker, did you see the clip yesterday that came out of the stream?
What clip was that? I guess that's the answer. Poggers?
Poggers.
No. What happened when I wasn't here to supervise you people?
we were talking about how things were very unpoggers, namely Bobby's death in Origami King,
which I brought up.
God.
That's not very cash money of you.
Yeet that.
It's very not poggers. I'm beginning to doubt your commitment to sparkle motion, etc., etc., etc.
Give that whole idea the big yeetus.
Yeah.
Give the yeetus.
Eat it. Just
yeetus and eat it.
Okay. Anyway.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
We will see you the next time we do this, and not a moment sooner.
Oh,
Yep. That's how that works.
Bye.
Tautologies.